applying what you guys have been reading about in terms of literacy assessment. You guys have already done the first project, the first 4 weeks, familiarizing yourself with the literacy culture of your classroom, your school, and ideally getting a feel for some of the students in your class, their literacy abilities, and a little bit of their attitudes towards literacy. So you should be ready to jump right into the case study project. And I wanted to give you an overview, first of all, of the document that describes the project, and then a couple documents that are available and resources available on Sakai and where you would find those. So the assignment gives the due date. It's due in 4 weeks, September 30th, a month from now, and is divided into 3 phases. The first of which is just simply choosing your case study student. And so what I'd like you to think about for choosing your case study student are 2 things. First of all, you want to, based on your first 4 weeks of informal observation, conversations with your mentor teacher, strategically choose a student. This should be a student who's reading below grade level, somebody that you and your mentor teacher are concerned that they may have trouble accessing the content area reading and the grade level reading in your classroom this year. And so you're going to want to identify that student. You're going to want to check in with that student, explain the project you're doing, explain the benefits of participating in it, that it will allow them to be more successful in reading in the class, and that also the any kind of cost to them, which for this would just be giving some time to you to be able to administer some assessments. And in terms of the timeline, a lot of these assessments take between 5 to 15 minutes to administer, and there's one assessment that I'll go over today that takes about a 45-minute chunk of time. So once you've identified your student, you're going to want to give them a permission slip that's available on Sakai, and they should sign off and say they understand that they'll be given some assessments and that you'll share the results with them, and then they'll also have their parent sign that. And that's the best practice for any time you're doing graduate work and working with a student and sharing the results about that student. And then the next thing you're going to want to do is look at an overview of the 8 assessments that are required for this project, and you're going to want to schedule out time where you can meet with the student. So work with your mentor teacher. Is there time during class? Often with secondary classes this isn't so available. The students aren't as available to pull out during class time, so it might be during a lunchtime intervention session or an after-school program. Maybe they're involved with a homework help program or an advisory. So talk to your mentor teacher about when you could find time to meet with this student. And if you're able to pull them from certain classes and that works with you and your mentor teacher as well, that's fine too. So I wanted to go over the nature of the 8 assessments you're doing and then show you some of the resources that are available. So the first assessment, you get to choose between Burke's reading interview and the adolescent reading interview. Both of these are available in resources on Sakai, and you're going to look at these two and administer to your student in order to get a feel for what's their feeling about, what's their kind of emotional engagement with reading, or what's their motivation to read. That's really important before you even start looking at what's their skills in terms of reading. Secondly, I wanted you to adapt the reading behavior checklist that Vaca outlined on page 18, so that throughout the 4 weeks you're looking at their reading behaviors during class, whether it's during a silent reading session, whether they've been assigned reading for homework, do they seem to have been able to complete the homework tasks associated with that reading? Are they reading in partners? Are they volunteering to read out loud? So do that assessment, and the next one that we'll get back to is the DRA. This is not available on Sakai. There are some examples of completed DRAs on Sakai, but you're going to need to contact the person at your school site that has copies of the DRA assessment. And this is often at the secondary sites. This is available with SPED department, or the resource specialists. And so if you are not able to locate the DRA at your site, please let me know as soon as possible so that we can find out how to get the DRA materials ready for you. I'll go back to the DRA in just a moment to give you an idea of what that looks like and what that consists of. Week 5, you're going to administer two brief surveys. One is a phonics survey, and one is the San Diego Quick. The San Diego phonics I'll go over in a moment. The San Diego Quick is a great way to get a quick read of your students' approximate reading grade level. It simply is having the student read word lists, and you're measuring their familiarity with those word lists, but it can give you a quick approximation of their reading level if you're concerned that a particular student doesn't seem to be accessing a course text. For week 6, I wanted you to do a vocabulary screening. Obviously, for content area instruction, a student's vocabulary is really key to their accessing the text and the concepts in your course, and so this is a really important one. And then similarly, I wanted you to do an evaluation not just of your student, but also an assessment of the class text that you're using. And so I'd like you to create a CARI carry test for the text that you and your mentor teacher use in your class. And we can go over that later, but also on page 121, Vaca outlines how to create one of these assessments. And then finally, you'll end with a Words Their Way spelling inventory, and I can give you further instructions and an example of how to score that, because that's a little bit more of a complex thing or complex assessment in terms of evaluating it. Okay, so I wanted now to check out Sakai and take a look at some of the resources available for this project for completing this. So when you log into Sakai, hopefully by now you have gone to the right-hand sidebar and checked out resources. So when you go to resources, you have links to all the articles that are assigned for the class, and you're going to open up the folder that says assessment materials for this project. And all of those assessments that I just outlined are available. In addition to the running record forms, you don't have to do that for this project, but there are some available. And the Word Writing Cafe is available for you as well, but that's not a required assessment for this class. The ones I wanted to show you today were, first of all, I can show you the Core Phonics Survey. The Core Phonics Survey allows you, if a student that you're meeting with is having trouble simply with fluency, you're going to want to see what's the source of, why is a student having difficulty with word recognition, what's slowing them down when they're reading. And so this is a phonics survey from an assessment book called Core. It details to you a lot about what this assessment is, why you would administer it, some pretty detailed instructions about how to administer it, and then you can see that it's broken down into parts, and allows you to go step by step in outlining what phonics skills or what knowledge of phonics rules your student has. And it begins actually all the way from recognizing the names of letters. So for most middle school and high school students, that would be something that's pretty straightforward for them. So you might want to give that caveat or that upfront case so that they feel kind of an understanding of the context of this. You might just acknowledge that some of these tasks that you're going to ask them to do are quite simple, and then some of them might be more difficult. So you can see it goes from actually naming the letters to being able to name the sounds that letters make, knowing the difference between long sounds and short sounds, which actually struggling readers in middle school and high school are going to have some difficulty with. And then you can go to seeing if they know some of the rules for letter combinations, and then it takes you all the way to multisyllabic words. So this is something that I want you to do in order to see where, what types of specific areas of focus you'd be able to work on with this student to help them with their fluency, to help them with being able to decode words. Okay, and then the next thing I wanted to overview with you, the next assessment, was the DRA. And the DRA, as I mentioned, is available at your site, and the DRA has several different reading tasks that students engage in. You first have to start with an estimate of what that student's reading level are. What reading level is. There's a couple ways to do this. Most schools have students take an SRI test, and that's available on your mentor teacher's Godzilla site, where they're able, and it lists an approximate reading level under the SRI score. You're going to then go to your DRA test and select a text that matches with what your estimate of your student's reading level is, and then you're going to have that student do what's called a running record. So I'll give you an example of what that looks like right here. So the DRA consists of first looking at your student's fluency, or first actually looking at the student's motivation or reading engagement, and they'll take a quick survey on that. And then secondly, it allows you to assess their reading fluency. So you're going to do two things as the student reads out loud. You are going to time how long it takes them to read a brief passage, and then while they're reading, here's an example of a teacher who marked up and did a running record with that student. So running records are ways to assess your student's fluency, and you're going to get their reading rate, which, as you've read about, is really important for comprehension, that they read at an appropriate rate. And you're also going to be able to take a look at what's called their miscues. So as they're reading, you can check off when they read a word accurately, and then if they miscue, if they read something, maybe they replace, as you can see here, they replaced 90 with 30. Here they said 32 degrees rather than negative 32 degrees. Here they said hypothermia instead of hypothermia, so you're going to record the miscues they make. That allows you to go back and analyze the type of errors they make when they read. You're also going to record when students self-correct, because that's a great reading strategy that you should be able to acknowledge if your students are able to self-correct. So you're going to mark that with an SC. The detailed instructions for how to do a running record are available. We have videos available on Sakai, and with the actual DRA materials, there's detailed instructions on how to conduct one of these. You can see that when the student finishes, you're going to record the time. The test